say it's to wonder if I'm free. Lift me up, higher now, lift me up, 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 higher now, lift me up, lift me up, lift me up, lift me up, higher now.
The 2007 season now the stuff of legend. Thrills and controversy. Will 2008 come close to such drama? Well, welcome to Albert Park in Melbourne, where it's hot and it's ready for a thrilling start to the season, with Lewis Hamilton on pole position. The 2008 Formula One World Championship season starts here, and if yesterday's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix is anything to go by, it's going to be the equal of 2007 in terms of excitement and surprise. Lewis Hamilton is on pole position, and Mark, yesterday he was back to his absolute brilliant best.
I think he's even better than last year. I think he's had a winter off now, he's learnt a great deal, and he's come in with so much confidence. And of course the McLaren car, fantastic performance, great for the team, but such a traumatic winter, super to see him on pole position.
And he's on pole position with Fernando Alonso with problems back on row 6. Kimi Raikkonen, after his problems yesterday, back on row 8. Such an opportunity to make a positive start to this season.
You know, it's a fantastic opportunity because at the beginning of the season, everybody needs to have the reliability there. I think McLaren have got that with their car. And to have the big contenders, is to say Raikkonen back on the end of the grid, trying to fight his way through. Lewis must capitalise on this and try and pull off the win.
And what about the conditions we've got here? We've got temperatures around about 38 degrees centigrade, 48 centigrade track temperatures. There's a bit of a breeze, which is very welcome for the spectators, but that's of no great consolation to the drivers. They're in for a tough afternoon.
They're in for a very tough afternoon indeed. I think cockpit temperatures have been registered at about 50, so a tough environment for them. But track temperatures are also going to cause some problems to the rear tyres, especially now, no traction control, rear tyre wear goes up. Maybe a little bit of excitement for the guys trying to hold on. But yeah, very tough indeed for the boys out there.
Conditions like this, all part of the examination. It's a new season, we've got new driver lineups, and we've also got some important new technical regulations. Let's take you through all the details.
Problems in qualifying aside, world champions Ferrari start the season as favourites. Kimi Raikkonen and Felipe Massa form the unchanged driver lineup, and in terms of race wins, theirs is the most successful pairing on the grid.
Lewis Hamilton will be hoping his second season at McLaren is every bit as competitive as his first. The MP423 looks quick and the boys driving better than ever. Heikki Kovalainen's taking the fight to Hamilton, but there should be less tension at McLaren this season with the amiable Finn on board.
Taking second place in the pit lane is BMW Sauber, who retain German Nick Heidfeld and Poland's Robert Kubica. Their target for 2008 is to win a race.
Fernando Alonso is happy to be back with Renault, even if the R28 is looking a bit short on pace. He's got another rookie teammate this year. Nelson Piquet Jr., son of the 3-time world champion, steps up to the big time after a season as Renault tester.
Williams field two more sons of ex-F1 drivers in Nico Rosberg and Kazuki Nakajima. The Toyota-powered Williams has looked good in winter testing.
The RB4 looks like it could be the car that starts to move Red Bull forward. David Coulthard and Mark Webber have produced some promising lap times in winter testing.
Seemingly stuck in F1's midfield, can Toyota make serious progress in this, their 6th year in the top flight? Timo Glock replaces Ralf Schumacher, while Jarno Trulli is aiming high.
Sebastian Vettel goes into his second season at Toro Rosso, where he's joined by Formula One debutant Sebastian Bourdais, the 4-time Champ Car champion who's finally found a drive in Formula One.
The old Jordan team are now on their 4th set of owners in 4 years. Force India is the name, while Adrian Sutil is joined by Renault refugee Giancarlo Fisichella.
Super Aguri almost didn't make it to Melbourne, but a last-minute deal with the Magma Group rescued the team from collapse and took the weight off Anthony Davison's shoulders. That winter of uncertainty will undoubtedly have compromised the team's performance, though.
Last but not least is Honda Racing. Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello form the most experienced driver lineup on the grid, and with ex-Ferrari technical director Ross Brawn at the helm, Honda is one to watch over the next few years. But back to this season, and drivers have big rule changes to adapt to, including a standard ECU that's got rid of traction control. The drivers must be more gentle on the throttle and on the brakes, as engine braking systems that used to help stop the car have been banned. Teams have also lost their spare chassis in the garage. A race engine still has to last 2 events, but drivers will not be penalised for their first failure. But now gearboxes have to last 4 races, with a 5-place grid demotion if you change it.
Where it's going to make a difference is in the starts. You're going to see more mistakes and more differences in the starts. And also maybe when you're overtaking and things like that, so in difficult situations or in the wet, that's where it's going to be more interesting.
If I drive with the engine map we had before with traction control switched off, you know, the wheels just light up all the time. So we've had to make it a little bit more progressive, and that's really been the key. But the thing is, you improve one area, you lose out on another area, so it's really finding the balance.
Last year we arrived at a point that you know, the stars, you knew more or less what going to happen. All the cars start more or less in the same way. This year you can lose or gain many places, so hopefully that is interesting for the spectator.
The drivers who risk more, they can make the difference, but you will have to watch out, of course, much more. Otherwise, it's easier to make mistakes.
You can set up the car in a different way. You can, help yourself when you are in trouble without the traction control. It's more natural. It's more a racing car.
Yes, there has been a pretty universal welcome among the drivers for the loss of traction control, but there'll be a fair bit of bravado there. Some will be happier and more comfortable than others.
I think some of the more experienced guys are quite comfortable not having the traction control there, more like the old days, Steve. But there again, I think it may catch out a lot of the drivers. I think, especially with tyre wear goes up on the rear, some of them are going to get into that throttle a little bit too heavy, just going to catch them. But I have to say as well, it's lovely to see a Formula One car with opposite lock-on and a driver using his skills to actually control it. Fantastic.
So even in dry conditions like we've got today, we're going to see a lot of driver mistakes, and driver mistakes during the course of the season are going to decide things.
They are indeed. I think this is going to be a great one for us now to see if this is going to continue through the season. You know, if we get a few guys making mistakes halfway through, having a little bit of distance and a rear tyre wear, could capitalise on it for some at the back and come through. Maybe we'll see some of the leaders make a big mistake. We're all waiting with bated breath.
Well, on the evidence of just one qualifying session so far this season, Lewis Hamilton has been installed ahead of Kimi Raikkonen as favourite for this 2008 Formula One Championship. Hamilton now at 5-4. Raikkonen, who had been strong favourite midway through winter testing, is now 6-4. Massa 5-1, Kovalainen 10-1, and Alonso out to 25-1 after his problems yesterday, but that on the evidence of just one qualifying session. Encouraging for Lewis, but Anthony, there is an awfully long way to go, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a really long way to go. I mean, this is obviously just the start of the season. Good performance in qualifying, and in fact, throughout the whole testing for the past few days has been excellent. So we're just hoping that Lewis can have a good race today and enjoy it, because it's going to be hot out there, and I just hope everybody comes home safe.
We left you and Lewis in Brazil really hiding the disappointment and sort of counting the weeks down to this day, at the start of the 2008 season. What has Lewis's mood and motivation been like during the course of the winter?
Extremely good. I think it was a release to find the end of the season, I think, last year, and get back to some normality with some family life and other bits and pieces. But, it didn't last long. Sort of just after Christmas, Lewis was back into the flow of training and preparing himself for the race. And right now, he's turned up here, I think, fully fit, fully prepared mentally and physically. And I think it's shown in his confidence all week. He's been happy and relaxed, and I think, if you're feeling like that, then that's
And you always
good.
enter a season with a few doubts, so how important was that pole position yesterday, just to calm the nerves a bit?
The nerves will never be calm, because that's just the nature of the racing. But I think what we always look for is just for Lewis to do the best that he possibly can. And getting pole or winning the race is the bonus bit.
Anthony, thanks very much indeed. All the best for this afternoon. Let's go to Ted, fighting above the noise here at McLaren.
Yes, thank you very much, Stephen. With Pedro de la Rosa. Pedro, you sit in on all the engineering meetings with the drivers at McLaren. Tell us, how is the plan to try and get these cars, which are in such a good grid position, to the finish in these difficult conditions?
Well, the plan really is, as any other race, to do a good start. We obviously have many question marks of how we will perform without traction control against our competitors, because this is the first race. And after that, just we have a consistent car, and the long run pace on Friday was very good. I think that we have improved a lot that from last year, and that it will be a big asset for the race. But just stay out of trouble. Once you're in the front, everything is so much easier.
Can you afford to push 100%? I mean, the drivers will have to look after the cars to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays you push from lap 1 to the last pit stop, and then once you're out on the last pit stop, you conserve a little bit the engine or a little bit save the tires. But really, nowadays you just have to push from lap 1, and that's what we're going to do.
Thanks, Pedro.
Mark, everyone was wondering how strongly BMW were going to challenge this season, and here we are with Robert Kubica on the first front row position of his Formula One career. What can we expect from him?
I think you're going to expect a great deal, and I have to say I think Kubica really should have had pole position yesterday. He made a small error, probably dropped 2 or 3 tenths of a second, and pole should have been his and would have been his. Amazing pace by the BMW. They've certainly come up a great deal from last season. But let's wait and see also. A lot of fireworks in the early days between Hamilton and Kubica. They've carted together, and could be good into turn 1.
Well, let's look back on yesterday's qualifying now. Some significant changes to the qualifying format, which provoked a few bits of tactical confusion among the teams, but that was no reason for the way the form book absolutely flew out of the window. Here's James Allen with the story.
There was a theoretical form book going into yesterday's qualifying session, but it was quickly turned on its head. We've got a McLaren and a BMW on the front row of the grid, Ferrari's 4th and 15th, a Toro Rosso and a Honda in the top 10, and former world champion Fernando Alonso out of it. Nelson Piquet was off the pace after damaging his Renault in practice. He's 21st between the two Super Guris. Former champion Alonso had differential problems. He's down in 11th. Ferrari's Albert Park qualifying gremlins returned. This time it was reigning world champion Kimi Raikkonen, who had a fuel pump problem and didn't make it back to the pit lane. He's 15th on the grid. Meanwhile, Mark Webber had this spectacular spin due to a suspected brake disc failure. Teammate David Coulthard, though, was on form. He's 8th on the grid, while Jenson Button showed Honda's progress with 12th. BMW hadn't looked too sharp in winter testing, but now we realise they'd been sandbagging. Robert Kubica was the fastest in the first part of qualifying and was on for pole position until he had this spectacular moment at turn 12. This allowed McLaren's Lewis Hamilton in. He kept his head. Hamilton will start from pole for the 7th time in his career. And so the grid for the Australian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton on pole. Robert Kubica, that's his best ever, in 2nd. Same story for Heikki Kovalainen in 3rd, who has Felipe Massa alongside him in the Ferrari. Row 3, Nick Heidfeld and Jarno Trulli in the Toyota. Row 4, Nico Rosberg in the Williams and David Coulthard in the Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel in the top 10 again. He has Rubens Barrichello alongside him on row 5. Outside the top 10, Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button is 12th. Nakajima and Webber make up row 7. Reigning world champion Raikkonen had a fuel pump problem. He's 15th. Fisichella alongside him in 16th. Frenchman Sebastien Bourdais and Adrian Sutil make up row 9. Glock and Sato make up row 10. At the back of the grid, Piquet, who qualifies exactly where his dad did for his first Grand Prix, and Anthony Davidson.
It was fantastic beginning to the season, and that's where I wanted to be. You know, last year I think I came here and I was just hoping for the best, and this year was slightly different.
It's a great moment for the team, especially after struggling beginning of the season. In winter testing we had some problems, but the guys in here in Munich has worked very hard, has done a very good job to solve the problems, and thanks to them I'm here.
I need to work a bit more with my team, with my engineers, with my driving, everything to catch Lewis and the others. But honestly, you know, we are going on the level now where we are, and we can't be too unhappy about that.
It was quite stressful qualifying because you know, the yellow flags, the red flags, and things like that. But you know, same for everybody.
We could have run the qualifying with no problems and changed or fixed the problem after the qualifying, but we end up Hanna made a shot from the pit lane, so we were not allowed to go out anymore, so that was our problem.
So both at the age of just 23, Hamilton and Kubica means the youngest ever front row for a Formula One Grand Prix. And as I said before, pretty dynamic as well. Kubica up over the curbs in turn 12. He was really trying, wasn't he? And do you think this is going to be the story for the season for them?
Well, the car looks great out on track, particularly in Kubica's hands. And without that mistake in turn 12, he would have been on pole position without doubt. So it bodes very well for BMW. The form book was turned completely upside down, wasn't it? We've seen all of the data from the winter testing. We've talked to the engineers, been to the tracks, and nothing turned out quite as we expected.
Well, everyone expected Ferrari to dominate here. Raikkonen did last year, but it wasn't like that. They looked uncomfortable on Friday in practice, and maybe that first lap pace isn't quite there again for them.
Well, the day is yet young for the Grand Prix. The season is only just underway, so we'll have to wait and see. I think the Ferrari does have some pace there, but the drivers are struggling a little bit. And, well, if Massa's not hanging on to the back of Hamilton and Kubica, it'll be quite a shock.
There were some terrific performances down the field as well. Sebastian Vettel, still only 20 years of age, making it into the top 10 in the Toro Rosso. You've got Barrichello in the Honda, Rosberg 7th. Bit of a change of the guard, it feels like.
Yeah, you look at the qualifying press conference with Hamilton, Kubica and Kovalainen there, as you say, Vettel, Rosberg. Obviously the kids are very comfortable driving these cars without the electronic toys and support.
It couldn't be better set up.
And I suppose, Mark, one of the big unanswered questions from qualifying yesterday is exactly how strong are Ferrari? What's your assessment of the world champions?
I still think they're very strong, and in fact if you asked half the pit lane at least, they would have said Ferrari have got to be the target and the people who are going to win the championship for the drivers and the constructors. But as we are at the moment, they've had a weak weekend so far. Raikkonen on the back, Massa a little further down than he would like to be, but Massa's still got potential to pull his way through to the front, so you know, not all of it's lost yet.
And what do you feel Raikkonen can do off row 8?
It's going to be very difficult, but the issue will be just getting off the line to start with and seeing if he doesn't get caught up in somebody else's accident. That's going to be a big problem for him, but there's potential to come through. We've seen it before with other great drivers, and Ferrari's got the pace to do so.
But you share the thought that maybe Massa is going to put Kubica and Hamilton under a lot of early pressure.
He has to, Steve. There's no other way to go about this. He's got to make sure he gets some points, and valuable points for him is winning this Grand Prix. He's got to run at the title. He's been a supporting act for Schumacher. He's been here with Raikkonen. I think enough for him now. You know, he's got to go and see if he can do the job for Ferrari.
OK, let's go down to Ted Kravitz, who's with Nick Fry down at Honda, I believe with some news on Jenson Button.
Yes, indeed, Stephen. It is a bit early, isn't it, the first race to be talking about the driver market. But we at ITV understand that Jenson Button is very shortly to put his signature to a new extended 3-year deal to stay at Honda Racing. Obviously, his current contract expires at the end of this year, but he is close to signing that deal, which obviously is great news. How are negotiations going, Nick?
Our relationships with Jenson and his management are absolutely first class. You know, he's really been an important part of putting the team of people together that we've now got, and obviously he's looking towards the future as well, and our objective is obviously to make him world champion.
So he's 28 years now old, 29 next year. That will mean he's going to get to about 32, which is sort of prime championship winning age. Do you believe he can challenge for a championship, which is what he wants to do with your team?
Absolutely. You know, Jenson and the Honda team really are locked solid together, and he does really improve year after year. And even though last year was a difficult year for us, I think as a driver and as an individual, he continued to develop. So he's certainly someone we want with us.
Just very briefly, when do you expect the deal to be done?
I think later this year. There's no big hurry. I think we've got great relationships with each other, and we can take our time.
Okay, thanks very much, Nick. Back to you, Steve.
Yes, Jenson Button poised to put his faith in Honda. Let's hope that faith is rewarded pretty soon. Right, we're going to be talking to Lewis Hamilton about qualifying yesterday and the prospects for the race. But let's first of all take a look at the pole position lap here in Melbourne that put him at the head of things for the race. The first pole of the no traction control era. Perfect opportunity for Martin Brundle to describe the talent of Hamilton and the demands of this circuit.
As sharply as normal. He misses the apex slightly at turn 3 as he's waiting for the tyres to come on song. Cautious through 4, absolutely full throttle through turn 5, straighten the car up, directly underneath the canopy of the trees, brake hard for 6. There it is, now it's beginning to get on those curves. 7's a sweeping left-hander, 8, easy right. Bring it to the left-hand side for the crucial braking point of 9. You must get into this corner early, pick up the throttle, move to the outside of the racetrack, squeeze up against the wall for best acceleration. Up to 185 miles an hour, the best 2 corners on the racetrack, turns 11 and 12. Look at this, 140 miles an hour Hamilton is on to the pit straight. This has been an exceptional lap. What a great start to the season. Over the line, no dramatics, straight into fuel-saving mode.
Fantastic. It couldn't be a better start to the season, and you know, I always said there was a slightly different approach to how I came here last year. Last year I wanted to just do a good job, and this year I wanted to get pole more than anything, so you know, I'm very, very comfortable.
What does it actually mean to the team and the whole sort of self-belief around McLaren?
Well, obviously with all the dramas that we've experienced in the previous year, it was great for me to see just how positive the team were, and just how determined they were to produce a better car, and really going into this season, they've done a great job. And so the plan was to start the season on the good foot, and it really couldn't be any better for either of us.
And we got a shot of you sitting in the car at the end of that first session, probably no doubt receiving the news that Kimi hadn't made it through. I mean, how do you react and receive that sort of news at a time like that?
You just got to put it out of your mind and focus on your job. I didn't know what was going on with his car, but you know, so it's unfortunate for him. But he's a guy I'm out there to beat, as well as everyone else. But you know, I guess we'll see.
Not just you, but great stuff from Heikki as well.
Heikki did a great job, and really, I remember he said to me earlier on, he was a bit nervous on the first few laps of practice yesterday, but he did a great job, and it's a real pleasure. You know, the ambience in the team is fantastic. I don't think it's ever been any better.
The spectacle has gone up a few notches. It's great to see the cars moving around. How much are you enjoying the absence of traction control?
I enjoy it. I mean, it's a challenge for everyone, and you know, this is real racing. I've always been saying for years, I wish the cars were a bit more like they were in the sort of Senna and Prost days, and we're slowly moving more and more towards that. And so without traction control, it's tricky trying to put 760 brake horsepower, 80, whatever we got. It's hard work, but we managed to do it.
I suppose the great examination of a driver's ability to work without traction control is a race start. What are your thoughts about the start tomorrow?
The start's going to be tough. I think you've seen starts are quite boring, I think, in Formula 1 previously, apart from the first corner. But just due to the fact that everyone's got these controls that really help you, so everyone sort of gets off to the same sort of start. But I think this year you'll see a much wider variation, I think, because some people have dealt with it better. Some people will get more wheel spin than others, and if you do break traction, it's hard to gain it back. And so, you know, I've just got to make sure that, you know, the key was getting on the clean side. I know how much of an advantage everyone had on the clean side last year, so I'm going to try and put that to good use.
And this now in the McLaren garage, all part of the McLaren pre-race tradition, the Lewis Hamilton pre-race tradition. Handshakes all round, especially at the start of a World Championship season, when your team has got you on pole position.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's just Lewis. You know, he just goes around, makes sure everybody's happy. I think he just makes a bond between every single member of the team. And I know back at base as well, back at the factory, everyone's got a great deal of respect for him. But he's got a great teammate as well, Kovalainen. I think that's something that Lewis has made quite evident this weekend. It's good to have a strong teammate with him, and they've been enjoying each other's company.
And significantly, it was big handshakes from Lewis on Kovalainen's side of the garage as well. That sort of thing wasn't happening last year.
Definitely not, Steve. No, there was a little bit more of a fraction between the two garages. But for sure, I think Kovalainen's come in. He's done a strong job so far. I wouldn't be surprised he starts chipping away at the heels of Lewis, but it might take him a couple more races.
Exactly what is it that Heikki Kovalainen and Lewis have got to get right at the start? Well, what is it that everyone has got to get right at the start without traction control?
Well, I tell you, the best thing in the world is Lewis is on the clean side of the circuit and all the other guys behind him, and that's more evident now without traction control and launch control. They've got to make sure that they've got grip and they get the bite of the clutch correct and the revs right, and that's quite a tough environment. It sounds very simple, Steve, but actually to get it dead on and get away, very hard indeed.
Well, one day of the season gone, Lewis Hamilton on pole position, so it's all started pretty well, but ahead of Lewis and ahead of everyone lies a grueling 18-race schedule for this 2008 World Championship season, including those new venues of Valencia for the Grand Prix of Europe at the end of August and Singapore for the first night race in Formula 1. Let's take a closer look at those new venues.
This season, Alonso fans will be treated to 2 races in their home country, with the addition of Valencia, which will host the European Grand Prix on August the 24th, the first race of a 7-year agreement. Formula 1 followers know Valencia is a winter test venue, but the location for the new race is rather more exotic. F1's going downtown into an ancient city with 2,000 years of history. Valencia caught the world's attention when the America's Cup yachts raced here in 2007. That saw the redevelopment of the historic port area. The 3.4-mile F1 track will be based around this facility. These buildings used to house the city's fish market, but in August they'll become home to the Formula One teams. These will be the garages and the pit lane for the new track. Still quite a bit of work to do. Land has to be reclaimed, bridges modified and tarmac laid in time for the race. In charge of this is F1 circuit designer of choice Herman Tilke, whose final plan was recently unveiled to the teams and drivers.
I'm looking forward to it. It's great to have another street circuit, and I think the atmosphere will be electric in Valencia.
It's a street circuit with a twist, a state-of-the-art facility that's as wide as a purpose-built venue and features substantial runoff on the fast corners. Predicted top speeds of up to 200 miles an hour should make it the third fastest track on the calendar.
The end of September sees the first ever Formula One Grand Prix of Singapore. We're witnessing the creation of the Marina Bay Street Circuit. It looks absolutely brilliant. 3.2 miles in length. It's anti-clockwise, 14 left-handers and 10 right. That's right, 24 turns, the last of which lead into the pit straight here. Grandstands yet to be built. It's very much work in progress. I can see the drivers adoring this racetrack. They may well bitch about some of the bumps and lack of runoff area, but it's going to be fast, up to 190 miles an hour. Big braking zones too. But of course the real challenge is this will be the first ever Grand Prix held at night. Let's take a look at the layout of the racetrack and try to understand some of the challenges that lay ahead. This track constantly breathes in and out. One moment it's a 4-lane carriageway and the next it's just down to 2. For example, at the Anderson Bridge, as they stream through here against the flow of normal traffic, it's very tight, a curved braking zone into a left-hand hairpin over yet another wide bridge on Esplanade Drive. I personally can't wait to see Hamilton and Raikkonen steaming down here at night. The event is being labelled as the Monaco of the East. In fact, this section does remind me of the swimming pool area in Monaco. Turns 17, 18, 19 and 20 between the marina and this magnificent grandstand. At the end of it, there's a big left-hand turn through their very own tunnel. It's almost a lay-by effect as they go back through there to join the racetrack itself. The overall layout of the circuit, though, reminds me more of fast Melbourne rather than Monaco. It's a creative layout for sure, with many distinctive landmarks and specific challenges. 1/5 of the race circuit will be newly created and feel to the drivers very much like a normal racetrack. The other 4/5 are pure street circuit, with all of the challenges of the cambers and bumps to go with that. One thing is for sure, it'll be very difficult to set the car up perfectly for all of the corners.
Two of the great new destinations that Formula One will take us to in 2008. But the Australian Grand Prix has its own character. And talking of Australian characters, there's one right between Lewis and Heikki Kovalainen. And Louise has now caught up with Shane Warne.
Well, it's nice to see you back here at Albert Park. Now, you Aussies love a good sporting spectacle, so how do you think this Grand Prix rates?
Yeah, look, as a Victorian here in Melbourne, beautiful sunshine, hot, well, it's hot, 37. I think it's great for the city. I think we've put on a pretty good Grand Prix. Everyone seems to have a pretty good time. The city stops for a while. Everyone parties, so it's a pretty good weekend. But no, I think it's a fantastic Grand Prix.
And just getting back to the situation here at McLaren as Lewis Hamilton completes his final preparations ahead of the race. There's been a great deal of speculation concerning the future of the team principal, Ron Dennis, who was so hurt and so damaged after last season's Spygate affair. And Ron even had to endure a police raid on his home as the Italian police investigation extended its reach. But against many predictions, he's here, he's in charge, and he would have taken huge pleasure at Lewis's pole of yesterday. Here's Louise.
Ron Dennis had a very tough 2007. The McLaren team principal's integrity was questioned by the FIA during the Ferrari spy scandal, and his leadership was tested by the rivalry between his drivers. But Dennis has shrugged off speculation that he's considering stepping aside.
Well, I'm here. Pretty obvious. I hold all three positions still. I think people don't really understand these. You know, they overlap on each other, these things. team principal's position is almost undefinable, you know, in comparison to what it was a few years ago. But all the time I feel I can positively contribute to the racing, and of course I love it. I have to recognise that, you know, the vast amount of work is done by other people in our organisations. It's never about one person.
What about the rest of the season, though? Are you going to be continuing as team principal throughout the year?
Yeah, that's the plan.
You've had the FIA climbing all over your cars back at the factory over the winter. How much of a distraction has that been for you?
That was an intense period before Christmas, but we're looking forward. We don't spend any time in the past. The way you've got to look at it is just concentrate on the things that are important, and what's important to us is winning races and maintaining our values, which we are doing. And obviously people question them, but we know what we are and how we go about motor racing.
Tell me about the dynamics of your drivers this year in comparison to last year. How are things different?
Well, they're obviously Heikki is Finnish. He's got that Finnish temperament. He's phenomenally keen with a lot to prove. He's done a great job in testing. He's got a good attitude, very good relationship with Lewis, and Lewis and he get on well. So we're optimistic it's going to be a good season.
And do you think you're going to miss Fernando at all?
Of course, because Fernando is one of the world's best drivers. It just didn't gel the way that either of us wanted to. That's in the past. We've got to look forward, and the forward is with Heikki and Lewis.
Lewis Hamilton and everybody else heads out onto this Albert Park circuit, but no one will be more relieved, I'm sure, to get this new season underway and to wipe the slate clean from 2007 than Ron Dennis.
Very much so. I think Ron's had a particularly difficult time, as you said, through there, but they do look forward. It's always been a vision of McLaren to keep moving forward, and Ron's the main man behind everything that's gone in the McLaren over 20-odd years. If he doesn't make any more contribution, then he'll step down, but at the moment he is very much the team principal and the boss.
Okay, thanks Mark. The tension here goes up a few notches. We'll hear more from Lewis.
But and then I went to Brisbane, spent the day there.
We were near Brisbane as well. So windy.
I tried surfing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I couldn't get up to save my life.
Yeah. The kayaking this morning. First of all, the start was a bit. Everybody was like, you know, I was here.
You were wide.
No, I was behind.
He was like 2 meters in front of me.
No, I was behind, and then couple of powerful like that, and I was past you.
Whatever, man.
But I missed the braking completely.
You're so full of speed.
You cheated, yeah. All of you guys took a shortcut. I was actually the only one doing the full course, and I actually won it.
Very good. Big smiles, yeah.
We just met Kiss.
Oh yeah, the guys are tall, huh?
Not really, but I think they're just.
Whatever like they have, they look tall. Because you took some photos with them, and it's like your head is like here.
Yeah.
And you're looking like that.
Yeah.
It does look quite funny.
Gene Simmons. I've seen him on TV and all that.
Yeah. And did you see the?
They're mega stars.
Yeah, they are proper legends.
Yeah.
I really like the music.
Yeah, I've seen some of the music you have, man.
Yeah.
That's hardcore. That's hardcore. I need to teach you about soul music, man.
Soul music. You listening to all this hip hop, these dudes with rings and all these things. It's not my style, right?
No, of course not. You're Finnish, man.
Yeah, it's a proper guitar and drummers, and I appreciate when I hear a proper drummer and they go like that, and with their feet and like
that. The
that.
thing is, in hip hop and all that, you don't get to see that.
Probably you just gotta once every couple of minutes hit the boom, boom. Like
yeah, but it's all done digitally, you know. So it's
which is
that's not so good.
I could do it, sure. I could do it.
We're on vacation right now, aren't we?
Yeah. All right. When's the race?
Yeah.
When does the season start?
That's a good question. Nah.
It's very good to get back racing. It's been a long time
on the
real
last race. It's been too long now.
We know we have a strong car, we have a strong team, we have strong package, but still gotta be on your toes all the time to be ready to react.
Yeah. It's gonna be a tough weekend. It's gonna be a tough season. It can't be any worse than last season. In terms of
no, we want to have a good year, a good season. Just enjoy it. Get to the racing. Sometimes hopefully good results. Sometimes it goes wrong. It's like
but this is racing, man.
Yeah,
it's racing. You gotta we gotta make sure we enjoy it. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Keep the thumbs ups for us. We need a lot of support now.
Well, they're great together, and it makes you realise what Lewis missed out on last season when it all went sour with Fernando Alonso. But how friendly can you afford to be with your teammate? Because he's the #1 guy you're trying to beat.
Definitely so. I mean, he's the main guy that you have to beat first of all, because he's the only other person to compare to. He's in the same machinery. But it does help when the two of you get on. Obviously, myself and Martin Brundle had a great relationship as teammates, and that's gone on for several years. But
it's had its ups and downs.
Yeah. But I think it's nice to see Kovalainen and Hamilton, you know, working together, and it's very important for a team that the teammates actually do work together and try and improve the car. Yes, they're going to have the ups and downs as well, Steve, and yes, there might be a couple of sour points during the season, but at the moment, it's a strong relationship.
Okay, my goodness, it's hot down there on that grid. It's hot in the stands as well. Louise is down there with David Coulthard.
Yeah, and I'm hiding under David's umbrella with him because it is pretty hot down here. David, you popped your car into 8th on the grid yesterday. This car looks to be a lot better than the one you had last season already.
Yeah, it's definitely a step forward. Despite the problems Mark had in qualifying, it has been, in the 10,000 kilometres of testing we've done, it's been a lot more reliable. So we're a little bit surprised with the problems we had, but hopefully we'll have a strong race.
It's hot, it's dusty, and you've got no driver aids this year. Am I going to have a busy afternoon?
I think you may do, but yeah, I'm always pleased to see it. I just hope it's after the checker flag.
Take us through the start. Is that going to be tricky?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we've done our practice starts at the end of the pit lane. The clutches obviously are very temperature sensitive because they're carbon, and you know, the first start out of the pit lane you're with a cold clutch. Now we'll have a hot clutch. It'll be hotter again when we do the race start, so it's always a moving target, so that's something we have to play with.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
David Coulthard there on row 4, which is a very decent qualifying performance from the Red Bull.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've really seen a true Adrian Newey designed car, Steve. I think, you know, it takes a while to get everything together, and this car has taken a step forward. That's very evident. And let's see whether it's reliable. That's the key problem.
We'll have more from Martin Brundle down on that grid in a few minutes' time. But here's the first ITV F1 competition of this new season.
To kick off the season, we're giving you the chance to win the ultimate VIP Formula One experience at this year's British Grand Prix, taking place at Silverstone from the 4th to the 6th of July. You and a friend will get grandstand tickets for all 3 days of the 2008 Formula One Santander British Grand Prix. You'll also get VIP hospitality for the big race on Sunday and get to rub shoulders with some of the biggest names in motorsport in Silverstone's Drivers' Lounge at Copse. You'll also have 2 nights in a hotel near the circuit and a helicopter flight around Silverstone, offering the ultimate bird's-eye view of the world's famous Grand Prix circuit. To be in with a chance of winning, you must answer this question correctly. Which of these is a corner at Silverstone? Is it A, Eau Rouge, B, Stowe, or C, Ferradura? To enter, call 0901 293 2020. Calls cost £1 from BT landlines. Calls from mobiles and other networks may be higher. Or you can text the word F1 and your answer, A, B or C, to 63337. Text costs £1 plus 1 standard network rate reply message. Digital satellite and cable viewers can enter by pressing their red button now. You can also enter for free at itv.com. Entrants must be 18 or over, and lines close at 5 p.m. this coming Tuesday. So best of luck. Entries made after the closing time won't be counted but may still be charged.
And I wonder how this season would have progressed by the time we get to that British Grand Prix. Well, I suppose most drivers are looking to take refuge from that grid mark. And we've just seen Nick Heidfeld walk past us in our position in the paddock here, looking absolutely drained even before the race.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys now have been, hydrating themselves, make sure they've got a lot of fluid on board. It's not a comfortable environment. The cockpit temperatures do climb, if you can imagine, even for us standing out here as perspiring heavily. But the guys will focus then and get their work rate up, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. It'll soon leave the back of their mind that they're actually working extremely hard.
There's Anthony Hamilton with the growing fan club that surrounds Lewis these days. Lewis, Kubica and Heikki Kovalainen. Top 3 drivers on that grid, really representative of the whole new young generation coming into the sport.
Definitely. 2 young guys, 23 years old, Lewis and Kubica as well. And there is a change of the guard as such, and you're seeing a lot of the newer generation come through. And they're all in good competitive cars, so there's a lot to look forward to.
And the displays go on in the skies above Albert Park, and there'll be rock concerts with Kiss to follow the Grand Prix. Great presentation always at the Australian Grand Prix, which is a lesson to other Formula One races on the schedule.
Yeah, Australia's a super race to come to. There's a lot of speculation about the race not being here for years to come, so I think there'll be a lot of negotiating going on, but they do put on a fantastic show, whether it's in the air or on the track.
And it's the perfect way to start the season in the surroundings and the heat of Melbourne today. And down on the grid, well, I'm not sure he's enjoying that heat. Let's go down to Martin Brundle.
Welcome to the grid, just in time for the fighter jets. Hope you can hear me. It's not often I feel the need to stand in the shade while I'm waiting to talk to you. It's pretty toasty down here, thick end of 50 degrees on the track centigrade. It's going to be the same temperature at least inside the cockpits. Long run down to turn 1. The starts are going to be fascinating. Talking around to the drivers and the teams, I'm expecting about 30% of these people, of the drivers on the grid, are not going to get away particularly well. That means we're going to see a half a dozen cars slow away. I think it's going to be quite dramatic. So just before we get into the technical stuff, Kelly Osborne, how are you? What brings you to the grid today?
Well, I've never been to a race before, and my Uncle Tony got us to come down to it, and it was one of the most amazing things I've ever been to, because it's like the equivalent of most people when they go backstage at like a music show. That's how I feel like right here. This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are dressed up in 4 layers of fireproof clothing and helmet and boots and gloves, 50 degrees in the cockpit. It's hard work for them this afternoon.
I was talking to Lewis Hamilton before, and he was showing how many different layers of clothing he had to wear. And there's going to be like 50 degrees in their car, and they've only got like half a litre bottle of water throughout the whole race. I'd be dying.
Well, they get paid enough. Don't worry for them too. Don't worry too much for them. So your dad's played in Melbourne, and you're in Sydney tomorrow, yeah?
Yes.
All right. Good luck with that. We're going to move on, try and find Heikki Kovalainen and see if we can get a quick word with him before he heads off anywhere. So if we can just steam in. Heikki, quick word for ITV. We're live at the moment. Sorry to interrupt. We're live this way. So congratulations, 3rd on the grid. You must be pretty satisfied.
Yeah, it's much better than last year. So I think we're gonna have a good race, but just most important thing is to take it steady and step by step increase the pace.
Explain to the viewers just what it's like, the track conditions and what it's like inside the car today.
Well, anybody who wants to know, they should come to Finland in the sauna with me for an hour and a half with water all the time on the thing, and that's rough estimation.
Yeah, okay. What are you hoping to achieve? Will you be satisfied with a podium, or do you think you can smell a victory even?
I honestly just want to have a clean race. Anything better than 3rd is good. I don't know what the others will do. I will just go flat out all the way through the race, and at the end we see what the result is. I'll just concentrate 100%.
We've had enough of your time. Thanks a lot. Right, let's see if we can find a Ferrari driver. We kind of expected they were going to be very much on the front of the grid, but I don't know. Right, he's sitting in the gap. He's talking to a TV company or 3, and he's found just about the best bit of shade. What do you think, Luke? You think this is going to happen? To talk to Felipe? Yeah. Right, we'll come back to him if we get half a chance. Okay, Kubica's down here on the front row of the grid. 4, everybody dressed in white overalls. He looks a bit like an accountant, but he's a bloody quick racing driver. Just a quick word, Roberto. That's fairly clear. Where are you, Andy? Okay, Massa's still busy talking to everybody. Let's see if we can find Nick Heidfeld or Rosberg down here. There's 16 metres between the first and second onto the 3rd rows of grid, 8 between the cars on each row. If you get a good start, I can see you being 30 or 40 metres better than the driver beside you. We could well today see drivers gaining 2 rows away from the grid if they get half a chance. They don't have any more challenges they want to throw at us today with jets. And where is Nico Rosberg? We think he's actually over here behind the Toyota of Jarno Trulli. We'll just have a quick word if he's up for it. A lot of people getting ready. It's a tough day today. One quick word, Nico. Okay, understand. It's a really difficult day for them today. They've got to be drinking. They've got to be preparing. They want to get in the car nice and early. I think we're going to have to go back to Steve. We're not going to find any drivers today anymore anyway. Cheers.
No problem there, because that really sort of sums up the kind of tension and the kind of concentration that's now required from these drivers as they adapt to the new demands of the no traction control start. Sebastian Vettel, we saw Sebastian Bourdais there as well. New territory for the likes of these. You can understand why Robert Kubica off the front row wanted to stay quiet.
think, it's understandable. Robert Kubica on the front row for the first time in his career. He wants to make sure he's fully focused. Sebastian Bourdais, it's a big day for him as well in the Toro Rosso because he's a guy who's come from IndyCar racing. He's been champion several times. Sebastian Vettel there, outstanding performance from him to make the top 10 in the Toro Rosso. But I'm always amazed, Steve, that the guys even have a chance to talk full stop, whether it's hot or cold, because most other sports you watch, it would be very difficult to get an audience with anybody minutes before their event.
There's Robert Kubica, and just describe the hunger that would be around this BMW team to get this all-important breakthrough win, if it's at all possible.
Well, I think it is possible in many ways. We just have to understand what the race pace is. They've definitely got qualifying pace. As we say, Kubica would have been on pole if it wasn't for a small mistake. If they've got race pace, then it will be a straight fight with McLaren. BMW have been working very hard over the last couple of seasons, have been very consistent, reliable, and step by step they've been making progress. So now they're on the front row. They're definitely something to be worried about for the likes of Lewis Hamilton there.
Yeah, Lewis looks ice cool, doesn't he?
Ice cool as always, and he doesn't seem to sweat, which really worries me. Again, Lewis Hamilton will be fully focused. He's done a lot of promotion over the winter, a huge amount, but I think that's actually taken away some of the worry and concern about the season ahead of him.
Well, down there on the beach, they'll be enjoying this air display as well. They'll be able to hear the cars in a few minutes' time. There's Jensen, and I think Louise is with him.
I am indeed. Jensen, your car wasn't looking too hot when it first hit the track, but boy, it's come on in leaps and bounds, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think our last test was a positive one. I think we can all see that. And starting 12th with not a very good lap, I'm pretty, in a way, the team have done a great job. So I'm happy and looking forward to today. I'm sure the start's going to be pretty intense. But as soon as we get rolling, hopefully everything will settle down.
Best of luck.
Try and give us an idea, Mark, of what's going to happen out of this midfield grouping. You've got Kimi Raikkonen back on row 8, Mark Webber ahead of him on row 7. A lot of Australian support, of course, for Mark Webber. And he says it's almost impossible where he is to get into the points because it's so difficult to overtake around here. What's your thought?
Well, it is a tough circuit. It really is a tough circuit. And, the only advantage they've got is they've got quick cars. Ferrari and Red Bull are very good, but at the same time, it depends on what strategy they run, and at least they've got the flexibility to put in the fuel they want.
Danny Minogue, we caught a quick glimpse of earlier. There she is, and she's with Louise.
Yeah, Danny comes back to this Grand Prix year after year, and it's going to be hot in all senses this time, isn't it?
It's never quite been this hot, and I don't think I've seen you in flip-flops ever on the grid. We've got illegal footwear, us girls, today.
We certainly have, but we need it. But think about how the driver's going to feel out there.
Oh, my mind boggles as to how they're going to deal with it. And it's hard to express to everyone watching back home just how hot it is. I'm an Aussie and I'm not coping, but good morning to everyone who's awake.
You're a big friend and you're a big fan of Jenson Button. He's got a good chance here today, hasn't he?
Yeah, things are looking up. Saw Ross with a smile on his face. So I think, this year and the next, it's a long-term plan and something that the team morale has lifted, and it's wonderful to see because I followed Honda for a long time.
Have a good time, and thank you for pointing out my illegal footwear.
They're gorgeous.
Thanks, Danny.
Well, the final pre-race ceremonial underway, the anthems, the Australian anthem, and a terrific spirit around this Albert Park circuit ahead of this 2008 Formula One season. Great race fans, be it Formula One, be it the Aussie V8. And what is this big crowd going to see down at that first corner after such a dramatic start to the season last year with what Lewis did down on turns 2 and 3?
Definitely, but all bets are off really now because, about to start the first Grand Prix of the season, but they're starting it without the age of launch control, without traction control. It's new territory for many of the guys. They're going to go into turn 1. Yes, it's going to be very tough for them, but there could be wheel spin, there could be guys with dragging clutches. It could cause several problems, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have a handful of people really mixing it up before they get to turn 1 itself, Steve.
So it's a question of really who gets off the start line and how, rather than what happens at those opening few corners.
Definitely so. It's a question of just getting the RPM right, just getting the bite of the clutch correct, and just releasing it and gaining that extra few meters and then taking that run into the first corner. And also, don't forget, without traction control, they've got a lack of engine braking. When they get heavy onto the brakes in one with a bit of fuel on board, it could actually catch them out as well.
Adrian Sutil there, we saw in the Force India. He's given them a few problems on their debut. He'll start from the pit lane. Chassis change required and then an engine change after his spin yesterday. But so many of these new drivers very low down on the learning curve.
Yeah, definitely so. But Alonso, we just saw there putting his helmet on. I think he would be one of the most troubled drivers today because he understands that what he's driving is not capable of winning a Grand Prix at the moment. And I'm sure he's thinking about what it's going to take to get it to win a Grand Prix. And I think that's going to be a tough task.
And one assumes this is the last fly past of the afternoon. Size matters in this part of the world. I don't think anyone's going to challenge that one. Terrific sight, and the next big noise we'll hear is that Grand Prix grid firing up in anger as so many more questions ahead of this 2008 Formula One season will be answered. Final thought from you, Mark. What are your hopes for the season in general?
My hopes are that we see Hamilton put it all together for the whole season and go one step better than last season. I also like to see Ferrari coming through and making a battle out of it, but I think BMW, Honda, Red Bull, they're the teams to watch out for. There's going to be some great progress.
Okay, as that jumbo disappears into the distance, well, how many more years will we be coming here? It's very much in the balance as Melbourne is rather pressurised to take a night race, but Albert Park is and always has been a great place to launch the season. It's all set to get the season off to a fantastic start then. Can Lewis Hamilton do exactly the same from pole position? The Australian Grand Prix, right after the break.